if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free. You know I'm addicted to you, and it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil voodoo. Got me coming back for more, even when I've been screwed. Dolls full of pins, pierce my heart straight through. I got issues in my head, I like you in my bed, but you keep me on red. Oh, everything is like a test, I better not text or I'll come off desperate.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing, sitting there gaslighting and confusing. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion. Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me? Then will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me? And will you get bored of killing me?
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo. Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. You always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause of sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. way back before we blew it all. Too many things going on, I can't keep track of them all. From people dropping a bomb to people putting up walls. I feel like life is on hold, perception stuck in a vault. I know that time can heal all, but how much time till we fall? It's awfully chilly outside when there's no shelter to hide. When everything is a lie, you'll find that out in some time. But when the things on your mind are all considered a crime, communication aside, we'll all just fight till we die. Is this an argument or just the start of it? Either way, I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this an argument or just the start of it? I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises, or maybe drown myself in something that is bottomless. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. I know that things seem bad, but they could be much worse. There's always someone else who has a greater curse, a greater thirst, a hunger, pain, and mercy. Just find whatever you got and try to be thankful first. I wanna feel again, I need a couple friends. I never really understood just how the story ends, but I can feel it's tense, don't know the consequence. The volatility of life, my only confidence. Is this an argument or just the start of it? Either way, I don't wanna be a part of it. Can I just get some space? I don't have the heart for this. I can't be picking up the pieces, fixing scars from this. Is this an argument or just the start of it? I wanna drive away so I can be so far from it. I wanna find a place where no one breaks their promises, or maybe drown myself in something that is bottomless. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small, way back before we blew it all. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me, I'm looking in the mirror, so foggy, but I've never seen clearer. I don't really think anyone can save me, and honestly I'm not really sure I want saving. I like to be my own worst enemy. There's no risk if you don't try at anything, so I'ma just keep buying everything. See you in the next life, have to be a better me. I don't think that my head's on straight, gotta flip it and grip it and go and get an x-ray. What's wrong with me? I just feel weight pushing on my chest and it squeezes till I suffocate. Better change my mindset, meditate. It's pretty cool that I'm alive and have better days. I could walk, see, hear, I should celebrate. Think I could change my mind, maybe elevate. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah, all I need are some better days. Cause all I want, and I pray, I believe in the better days. I'm kinda stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I work hard or live at my pace? You're only young once, yeah that's all great, but I also want a future where I'm okay. Living life is doing lots of cocaine. Wait no, it's living with no shame. Wait no, it's sleeping in on Sundays. I guess it's different for each of us and that's okay. Well I just wanna be happy, how to get there? Glad that you asked me. I think it's different for everyone. Some of us need work, others need fun. Some of us need purpose to overcome, but try to do what you love when it's said and done. Cause there's so many differences in each of us. Trust your gut, it can show you what you want. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah, all I need are some better days. Cause all I want, and I pray, I believe in the better days. Living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah, all I need are some better days. Cause all I want, and I pray, I believe in the better days.
Okay, welcome to the live stream. Let me just bring our cameras around here. All right. Welcome everybody to the live stream. We are on a new system build. This is system build number 7. It is, so hopefully you guys watched the previous builds. And if you haven't, well, welcome. All right, so I'm going to create a new poll out here just for the entire build. It's just basically asking, have you seen our last previous builds? Yes, no, and what's a live build? Here we go. So I'm just going to send that out. This build is going to go a little quicker than normal because it is a little hot in here due to the fact that the AC has been turned off in the building. So due to some problems, they're taken care of. Anyway, long story short, if I seem like I'm sweating more or if I'm building a little quicker, you know why. All right, I'm going to move. Yeah, let's switch to the overhead camera, which is not on. That would help. Whoop. Let's turn it on. I have moved everything around and I forgot to turn it back on. There we go. All right, so our overhead camera here. I'm just going to switch it over to that. Put me on this way. There we go. All right, so what you're going to need to build with are a few little items. You're going to need a small screwdriver, a larger screwdriver, a knife for cutting open the boxes and stuff, a flash drive with Windows 10, your BIOS, and your drivers on it already loaded. If you guys need this, we will have another video on how to load that. You'll be able to view that soon. You also need some wire ties, so just to tie up all the cable management and keep things very simple. I'm going to move that off to the side here. That's all your tools. So hardware-wise, we're going to go over a few things. We're going to need a hard drive, which is a WD Black 250 gigabyte Gen 4 drive, which is a very fast 3200 megabytes per second. Can't read. Okay, Corsair Vengeance memory, 16 gigabytes. This is 2 8 sticks. This is not a very, very high-end machine. This is more of a like a medium build. So just to let you guys know, there is no graphic card in this build. So if you're looking for that, we have other builds with that information. So you can look at that. Intel, this is an Intel build. It's an i3, which again, this is a very slower machine. That's why it's i3. i5 is a little bit better. i7 and i9 going all the way up. So this is an i3 10th gen 105 LGA. So it's an LGA socket of 1200. So it is 10th gen though, still not bad. Not the most newest of the newest, but it's fine for this build. Motherboard, it's an MSI B560M Pro-E. It does have Gen 4 on it still. It does support processors all the way up to 11th gen. So I'm hoping that this will work with this processor, even if we are on 10th gen. This box is a little damaged. Oh well. All right, Thermaltake power supply is the power supply we're running with, and that is a smart 500 watt power supply. It's an ultra quiet 120 millimeter fan, braided cables. It's an okay power supply. It's good for this purpose because there is no graphic card. If there was a graphic card, we would not be using this power supply. And there's the face. And there's the face buying camera. Face busting. Yeah, the camera's in my way. Sorry. It's going to happen. All right. Let me get the case up here. Case is a Thermaltake H17. You know what? I'm going to delay that for a second because that's very heavy and to put up here for no reason. So we're going to work on the motherboard first. Let's take the motherboard out of the box. Take the motherboard out. We need the I/O shield. We have some cables, manuals, some screws, and we're not going to really need the CD. The CD we're going to leave out for now. But we do need the box, so we're going to put the box up here. This build, we're not going to need cables, but it does come with SATA cables. If you have a SATA hard drive, we have an NVMe, so we're not going to need that. This is the I/O shield. We're going to be using that in the build a little later. And this is the screw that holds down the M.2 socket, which will be the hard drive. All right, let's move this out. Let's put this out here. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so motherboard, We're going to install the processor, RAM, and the hard drive all onto this motherboard. I'm going to open up the RAM sockets so they're ready to accept RAM. I'm going to take and open up the CPU socket. Before I fully flip that open, I'm going to double check that we have the proper socket, which it is. It says LG, it says 1200, so it should be fine. 12XX, which is 1200. So I'm going to open up the processor box. We're using the stock cooler. So, you know, you can put your own third-party cooler on there if you want. You know, again, you know, if you're using a third-party cooler, we do have another video on third-party coolers. You can check that out and see how that works. Every third-party cooler runs a little bit differently, so you may want to double-check your manual, make sure you're doing it right and putting it in. Now, obviously, this is the CPU fan and cooler, and this is basically the heatsink and cooler, I'm going to leave it this direction right now. It already has pre-applied thermal paste, so I don't want to touch that. We're going to use that pre-applied thermal paste for this build. So we're going to put this off to the side for now, but the processor is in a little plastic container, and we're going to take this plastic container and put it into, I'm going to put the processor into the socket. Now, the socket is going to be aligned to the arrow that is on the processor. And if, for a little clarity here, if you can see down in the bottom left corner, well, it's my left, I don't know if it's your left. Left corner over here, there's a little arrow. That arrow has to match the arrow that is down on the motherboard. Motherboard, the arrow is on this side, so we have it in the proper orientation. We're going to lift open the socket at this point. This will expose the pins, so be very careful during this process. At this point, you want to inspect the socket really quickly. How is there junk on the socket? All right, I'm going to hope that that is not going to interfere with anything, but there is a little bit, you know what, let's put the processor back for a second. There's a little bit of stuff on the socket, which looks like there's a little bit of a mess there. I'll put the processor back into there. I'm just going to clean out that little bit of gunk that's right there. I don't know how that got on the socket. It's supposed to be a brand new motherboard. Anyway, sometimes this happens, so we're just going to take 2 seconds. What am I doing? I need the tweezers. Oh, come on. Tweezers. Come on, I fix it. There we go. So, just gonna get that little bit of junk right there. If it is a piece of junk. Actually, it looks like someone put thermal paste. I left some thermal paste. Okay, that's okay. It's dried, so it's fine. I thought it was covering a pin, but we're okay. So it should be fine. But I'm a little bit concerned that there was already thermal paste on here, which is not good. It's supposed to be brand new in the box, so a little bit concerned about that. I'm gonna bring that up to the company later, find out what's going on with that. But let's open this up. We put that on, the little top pops off. You can put this off to the side. If you're gonna resell your motherboard, keep that. If you're not, then you can discard it. Plastics over there for recycling, okay. So that fixes that up. We're gonna now put the heatsink on. Heatsink is really easy for these. You just basically unwire the wire here, unravel the wire, get it outside of this. You can put the Intel logo facing up if it fits, which it should, it does fit. So we're gonna run this cable over to here. Right now we're just gonna align these holes with the little push downs there for that. So this is gonna go right here. It should lie nicely in the slot. At this point, you can start pushing them in one at a time. I push one in on this side, push one on the opposite side. Same thing here, this side, then that side. You want to go opposite corners to be sure that you get an even amount of pressure on the plate. So what you're going to do is you're basically going this side, that side, this side, that side, to give you an example of what I pushed down. You want even pressure because you want even pressure across the entire the entire top of the processor pretty much. Your cable here, obviously this gets plugged right into the one that says CPU fan, which is the one I plugged it into. It's labeled CPU fan up here. The next one over is system fan. That's for something for the case itself. So we're just not going to use that right now. We're going to do RAM next, which is right next to it. At this point, if you have a custom cooler, you want to make sure that cooler doesn't interfere with any of your RAM sockets, so you may want to do a little bit of advanced placement, make sure that it's correct, or you're going to end up having to take the processor fan off again if you mount it the wrong direction or have a problem with that. So just make sure that when you mount the proper direction the first time. It'll save you from having to repaste the processor. All right, so Corsair Vengeance memory, just a box. At this point, it's just in two little plastic container holders here. We're just going to take one out. On the RAM itself, there is a little piece of plastic here, so be sure to rip that piece of plastic off. If I didn't cut my nails, there we go. Rip that little piece of plastic off, put that off to the side. You're going to line up this notch with the notch that's in the motherboard and make sure that it goes in the proper direction. You shouldn't have to force it in, it should just line right up, and then you should be able to slide it right in. If I can line it up, there we go. Make sure you have it in the proper direction, then just give it a little push down. You should hear it click in place. That's the little lever here that's going to click over. There is no lever on this side, so there's only a lock on one side for this motherboard. This side does not have a locking side, so you won't need to worry about that. But you should hear a little click noise, and that means that it is put in place. You repeat the process for the second RAM stick, same way. You put it down, and you want to make sure that you are lined up with the motherboard, and push straight down. You should hear a click. Once it's clicked, you know it's in place. Now, since we're done with that, we can now work on the M.2 drive, which is right here. This drive is going to go right into this socket right here. That's this piece right there, which is its little socket. This is the graphic card, but this is your socket for your M.2. Before you open this, you obviously see there are no standoffs over here on this side, so we need to put one in, which is what came with the motherboard. Just going to open this up and take out the screw. It's going to be a small screw and a small little standoff. I'm going to put the screw off to the side so I don't lose it, and I'm going to put the standoff into the M.2280 socket area, which is labeled right here, which is the longest one. You just screw it in. Now you can use your fingers to screw this in, or you can use a little screwdriver. Either one shall work, and it's ready for the M.2. You're going to use the little screw once you're done putting the M.2 in its place. So you're going to take your M.2 out. This is your NVMe drive. Again, the box, just off to the side. Manual, don't need that. Plastic, just take the plastic off. Take the drive out carefully. And how it's going to line up is that this side with the little notch is going to line up with that notch there that is on the socket. You're going to put it at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to slip it in place, and then check to make sure it goes down. At this point, you're going to need that screw, so you're going to take this screw, the little itty-bitty screw, and you're going to use a very small screwdriver and screw that into the motherboard. There. You're going to push down the drive, and then you're going to put it into the little socket and then screw it in. Okay. All right. So after that's in place, we're ready to now put this into the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to move a little of this stuff out of my way just so I have room. This is just garbage. Just clean up your area as you go, you know, just make sure that you have enough room for everything. If you don't, then work on a bigger desk, I guess. Throw this out, throw the garbage, just throw the garbage off to the side. That's recycled garbage. Okay. We no longer need this little kit. Should be okay without this. So just gonna take this, put this away. So, always fold up your knife if your knife is up and you don't want to cut yourself. All right, so then basically let's bring up the case. Okay. Sorry, this is really not a good view. I apologize. You can come back to here for a second. You'll see that this case is pretty large. This case will fit, this is an Thermaltake H17. This will fit anything, that's down there, I'll grab it later. It'll fit anything that's basically, you know, full-size graphic card or anything like that will definitely fit with no problem. So you should have no issue here with any type of clearance issues. The only thing you may not be able to do is a actual like water cooling if you want to do like a very long radiator. This is only a good one for small radiators, so you're talking like a really small 120 radiator will fit fine here, but if you want like a full 240 or something like that, you're gonna have a hard time fitting that here. So you could do it in the front of this case, but it will probably overheat on you because the front of this case is not made for that much heat to be brought into the case at one time. So this is good for like regular air cooling and stuff like that, but I wouldn't go water cooling with this. Not if you want to do very long radiators. If you want to do a short radiator, like an all-in-one short 120 millimeter radiator here at the top, you can do that with no problem. And it'll definitely cause no issues with heat if that's the case. By the way, there's screws on the back here, which I'm just going to take out really quickly before I switch back to the other view. It's just basically untangling the mess that's behind here. It's just all the wires and the little bag of screws. So I'm going to pull those out. And let's switch this around. Just tucking the cables on the inside of the case so I can flip the case around and put it downwards so you guys can all see what we're doing here. Okay. Okay. So, whoop, wrong one. There we go. All right, so down on the bottom here, you're going to see basically this has got this is what I took off the other side, which is all the screws. So it comes with some wire ties, which we're going to put off to the side. We have different types of screws going on here. We're going to have the speaker connection, which is for post codes and beep codes. I'm not going to use this because I find it annoying, but if you have a machine that's not booting correctly, you can be able to plug that onto the header on the motherboard, and you can be able to hear that little beep noise. It will beep and tell you what's wrong with the system if there's a beep code that does cause an issue. We've got 3.5-inch hard drive screws. They are labeled on the plastic. It's kind of a little hard to see on the camera, but it is labeled. We'll put those off to the side. We are not using those. And we've got also 2.5-inch SSD screws. We're going to put those off to the side because, again, we don't have any of those. And these are the motherboard screws and the remaining other screws that have to go into the case. So we'll take that. We're going to definitely use that. So I'm going to put that off to the side, but we'll use it. At this point, we want to put the I/O shield in right away because yours truly has forgotten the I/O shield I don't know how many times. I think I'm up to at least 30. 30 times I have forgotten the I/O shield and I had to take everything apart to go put the I/O shield back in. And that is a really painful experience. So don't do that. When you get your I/O shield, it is like aluminum or a little bit of metal, so just be careful not to cut your fingers on it. But you see these are these little tabs. These tabs, there we go. These tabs you want to bend up and out of the way so they don't end up going into the motherboard. So just be careful and just push up a little bit so they're up and away from the motherboard. So when we go to put the motherboard in, it'll rest on top instead of inside the socket. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this directly into the back part of the case. This is the back part of the case, by the way. And when you slide this into the back part of the case, it's going to snap in place once you push it in. You should hear it pop into place. Should go rather smoothly. You should not have to force this very hard. If you're forcing it, you're doing it wrong. So just stop and then look back and see what it's getting stuck on. At this point, oh man, you can't see that at all. All right, well, hopefully you can see it on the other camera. Let's go to the other camera for a sec. You can see here, this is the I/O shield. This is the actual back part of the case. That's what it should look like, something like that. So, you know, it should be nicely flush with the case itself. So let's go back to the other camera and let's go back to me being over there. All right, let's put this down. You know what, I'm gonna move myself over to here because that makes more sense because most of the action is up here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the fan cable out of the way first. So just tuck that up and out of your way for now. You will be handling that later. Let's get the motherboard in place. All these wires are behind there, that's okay. We're gonna get those wires later. We're gonna line up this motherboard with all the holes, with all the little standoffs that are down here. So it's a little black. Hopefully you guys can see all this. These are all the standoffs that are going to connect to this motherboard. They have to match up with the holes that are on the motherboard. So you have holes here, 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 over there. You have to make sure they all line up correctly. In this case, this one down here is not in the right position. So we are going to have to move that one. This says number 2, and I'm going to move it up to that 2. It's the wrong spot. So I'm going to use iFixit. iFixit comes with a little holder thing, which I do not have in here. Okay, well, we'll have to improvise a little bit. Actually, do we need to clear that? Hold on 1 second. Yes, we do. So what I'm doing is just double checking the alignment to see if we need to move that one, which we do. We have to move that one. Okay, so we're gonna need a little bit of turning power here. Hopefully I can do it with my hand. If I can't, then I'm gonna have to go get a tool. You know what, guys? I'm gonna have to put you guys on hold for a quick second. Let me go grab a quick tool to grab that out because this will not work with my hands. So. All right, I am back, sorry. I have a better kit for this. It's a little bigger. And it has all of the iFixit toolkit, so it's not missing anything. This is the big Manta kit. Yeah, we're talking about a lot of bits here. So the one we want is basically the ones that are handling the little hex drivers. So we're gonna use that. And I think it's the small one for that. So we're gonna put that into here, and we're gonna take that down and unscrew that. It's gonna be really hard to pull. There we go, got it. You use a little bit of elbow grease for this one to get this out. Once it's out though, the standoff comes out pretty simply. You can use the same standoff moving it over to the other one, but once it's out, the other way, whoop. It looks kind of like that. That is the standoff that's in our way, so we're going to move it up to the other top tube spot, and that's going to go right there where my hand was like all moving. I should really clean that up a little bit. So we're going to move it up to the number 2 spot up here instead, which is the correct spot for that motherboard. Some motherboards have different pinouts. So tool find, so someone says tool find success, ta-da. Yeah, I thought I had the right tool set with me, so sorry. This is the bigger one that has everything in it. The small one is kind of for portable stuff. All right, so that's now in the right spot. So all of these should line up with the motherboard spots, and make sure that they line up. Do not proceed forward without having those line up, because you may end up shorting out your motherboard if you do not have them lined up correctly. You will end up with a short, and that would be really, really bad for your motherboard. So all the holes should line up with those tack downs or those little standoffs. I'm going to open up this screw bag. The screw bag basically has a bunch of screws that are for the case. I went over this in a different one, but I'm going to show you guys really quickly here. The screws, you've got motherboard screw. This is for a fan, and that's for a power supply. I'm not going to sort these really quickly because I already know what they are. We're just going to grab and go. And let's go back to here. Use the screwdriver and go in and screw all these down really quickly. Again, if you're unsure, count up all the screw holes that you have. Make sure that they're all screwed down. If they're not screwed down, then obviously pull the motherboard back out and make sure that you have the proper alignment for all of them. If it sounds like they're just spinning, then you know that you're missing a tack down. In other words, a little standoff for each one of those. If that's the case, then go back, put this proper standoff underneath, and then proceed forward. Make sure you don't forget any screws, the ones up in the corner as well. I am spinning the screwdriver at a little slower rate so that it does not strip the screw. If you're not comfortable with an electronic screwdriver, use a regular screwdriver. Don't push yourself to have to use speed here. I'm doing it for speed because, again, I do these constantly all day long. But if you're only doing, a single one, use a regular screwdriver with a long bit. You should be no problem either. This is a regular Phillips screwdriver. There's nothing special about this bit. It's just Phillips, so nothing really crazy. What I like to do is try to get the power plug for the system fan. But it seems like we keep picking winter motherboards that don't have a freaking fan connector closer to the left side of the case. I don't know why. There's only one up here that says system fan, so I am going to run it to that because there are no connectors over here, which is normally what I see, but I guess nobody wants to use exhaust anymore. So, all right, we'll put it up to the top where it says system fan. I'm just going to unravel this wire. Do not use these wires that come with, these wire ties that come with the case because they have metal in them. So throw those out. You don't want that. Just use a regular wire tie that comes with the case instead. Regular plastic wire tie. A plastic wire tie will look something like this, where there is no metal, it's just plastic. It's all floppy plastic, that's all it is. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this down into the system connector. This is only a 3-pin, so it's gonna go into a 4-pin connector. That's okay, as long as it lines up properly and it clicks in to the right keyed spot. It should be keyed. If you have it the wrong direction, you will be forcing it, and therefore you're doing it wrong. So stop, come back, and then push it back down. What I also like to do is also push down the socket release here for the PCI Express, just in case we end up putting a graphic card later in. You don't have to worry about doing that and just leave it in the open position. If you put a graphic card in, this will push up by itself. So I'm going to push this back so it's in the back release position, so it's ready for a graphic card if we ever add one later on. Right now we're not doing that, so we're just going to leave it open. But let's get to the front panel connectors that are down here. They are not there. They have moved them. That is TPM1. They have moved them. Oh, they moved them over here, which is JFP1. It's labeled on the motherboard. It says JFP1. I think that says JFP1. Oh, they make this really small. Yeah, JFP1. So it's over here to the left. This is a little weird. This motherboard's a little weird that it's over to the left. I guess MSI decided to do this to make it easier for them to wire, I guess, on the motherboard. Anyway, it's way down here in the bottom left corner over here. So we're gonna now bring all those wires up. The USB is here. There's JBS audio. There's audio front connector. This is the USB connector. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to move that around. Also, USB 3.0 is over here on the right side. So that's going to have to come across the motherboard a little bit to get that to connect into here. So it's going to have to come through here. So that one's going to come through here. All the rest is going to come up from this bottom one. I'm going to flip the case a little bit, so you're not going to be able to see this, unfortunately. Let me go back to myself for a second. Let me move this out of the way. Let me rearrange this so I can just do this really quick and get the cables in place, and then we'll just basically wire them up. From the back of the case, the only thing I'm really doing here is just pushing through the wires in the proper spots. So I'm just separating out the wires really quickly, so that's what you're not seeing right now. I don't want to flip the case downwards because I'm going to have to flip it back up again, so we're just going to braid out the cables like we've done before. So I'm just going to tie everything up in the back portion a little bit to give you guys a little look. Now you can't see it from that end. All right, so you know what? Let me just tie these up a little bit, and then we'll give a full breakdown in the back in 2 seconds so you guys can see what's going on. Let me get this over here. And we're also going to push the other cables up through that same hole, which are USB. What I'm doing is just separating the USB. The USB 2.0 headers are different than the 3.0 header. So that's going to go that way. And the other two are going to go up through the same hole. Push that through. And now I'm going to flip all the case around so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right. Okay, so woo. Over here. All right. This is the 3.0 connector. It looks very different than the other ones. It's got a blue connector here. That's going to go right there on that one here. So we're just going to plug that straight in. Should make a click noise. We should be good to go. Now at this point, you want to do audio cables. You can do the audio cable and you can do the USB really quick because they're blocked out, so it's really easy. They only fit one way. So audio goes to the bottom left, all the way, bottom left. They're also labeled on the motherboard. You'll see it says J audio, you know. USB says J USB. So you can kind of know what they are and where they're supposed to go. They are blocked out, so they have like little blocked out pins. With those blocked out pins, they only fit one way. If you're pushing too hard, you're going to bend a pin, so don't do that. It should just slide on nicely. If it doesn't slide on nicely, then double check the pin layout. You probably have it the wrong direction, or you maybe have it, you know, in the incorrect sequence. So just rearrange. Now, these, if you guys can see this, it says reset switch. This one says power LED, power switch, and HDD LED. So these have to go in a certain order. When they are the LEDs, it requires a specific order, positive, negative, and the ones that are switches don't require any type of positive, negative. You can put them any direction you want. So what you're going to do is you're going to look down to the motherboard where it says JFP1, which is, I guess, stands for front panel 1, which makes sense. You want to read out on the motherboard. It is really hard to read down here. I don't think you guys can even see this. This is so far down. Yeah. If you can't see this on the motherboard, you can also download the motherboard manual on like a laptop or something and grab it there. I mean, I can see it, but it's barely I can see it. So it says HDD LED is first, and that is positive, negative. I'm going to find the right one. That's positive, negative. And then reset. Usually these are kind of in the same order most of the time. Reset switch doesn't really matter, so it's a switch. Switch doesn't require any type of positive or negative. Power LED does, so we're going to make sure positive is on positive and negative is on negative. Positive goes first, so I'm going to put negative first actually. Negative, positive, It's a little tight in here, so, you know, if you're unsure about this, just again read the manual. The manual does have it listed in a bigger format so you can easily see what's going on. You may also want to plug these in before you put the motherboard in if you're really unsure about this. But the only problem with doing that is that then now you have cables all over the place when you're trying to mount the motherboard down. So you may end up putting a cable underneath the motherboard, and that would not be no good. So I would recommend not to do that, but you know, if you really have a hard time doing this, then yeah, pull the motherboard back out and just fix it, you know, before you proceed forward. But, you know, if you're doing this if you're doing this all the time, I'd recommend not doing that. Yeah, I would learn how to get this the right way. Maybe do a little bit of practice on this. All right. I'm going to push the cables back a little bit just so they're out of my way, but I'm going to do the power supply next, and then we're going to tie all this up once we're done. So let me move the screws out of the way. Keep that over there for now. These are the screws. That's garbage. All right. Power supply. Ooh, almost dropped it. You know what? I'm going to open this up over here so it doesn't slide into the case. I don't want to break anything. I think you guys have all seen somebody open a box before, so we're not going to go crazy on that. Let's do this. Okay. Power supply has a power cord. Put that off to the side. Manuals, which I'm going to toss over there. And the power supply itself. Inside with the power supply, there are screws in here, so you don't have to grab those screws. And there's nothing else in the box, that's it. No more what's in the box. All right. I'm going to flip this back around, and I'm going to show you where the power supply goes. Power supply goes down here, down into this corner over here. So I'm going to just flip this around so you guys can see it. But let me grab the screws first, just so we have everything ready to go. Screws. Plug over there. Power supply is wrapped in a little bit of plastic. You just take the plastic off. Do not undo this little bunch of cabling ties right now. Do not do that until you get it onto the other side and screwed in, because once you get it screwed in, then you want the wires flopping around. You don't want the wires flopping around while you're trying to get it in place. So we're going to flip this over. By the way, I'm just rotating it over to the other side. I know it's a little hard to see that, but there we go. So by the way, I usually build upwards. I don't usually do it this way, but for demonstration purposes, that's why I'm doing it this way. All of these cables are already pulled back, so I'm just going to pull these a little out of the way, just kind of guide them a little, so I can slide the power supply in without going crazy. Now, power supply has a fan. The fan on this case happens to go to the bottom of the case. This is the bottom of the case. This has a filter on the bottom of the case. So you would want to have the fan pointed downwards. If your case doesn't have a fan slot for it this way, you face the fan any direction that has the filter. So if you have a filter going this way, then fine. If there is no filter, in other words, you're building upwards, upwards through the case, then it would just be facing down into the case at that point. So let's put this in the proper direction. Let's slide it in. Slide it down, slide it in, and you're going to use the 4 screws that came with it and screw those in. They're going to line up in the back of the case, and they only go in one spot, so if you are screwing into the wrong spot, you'll know. And there should be only 4 screw holes that it fits into. Now, if you have the case downwards like this, you may have to lift the power supply up a little bit to make it fit in the proper orientation. So get it lined up, then screw it in. If you want an easier way of doing this, you could put your case upwards and let gravity hold it down, so you don't have to lift the power supply to do this. I'm only doing this for demonstration purposes, so I would recommend you build straight up and down. It's a lot easier because then you have gravity with you instead of against you. Where's that? screw hole. Yep. And of course, gravity has did me in once again. I'm going to loosen that up a little bit, just so I can jiggle into the spot which I need to do. There we go. Okay, good. Okay, and once everything is in place, just screw all the rest down. Make sure they're tight. You don't want your power supply falling out. That would not be a good idea. Screw it all the way in. Okay. At this point, everything is nice and tight. This will not move. It's all good. Sorry about the shake there. I just realized I shook the whole table. All right. So at this point, we're ready to take these cables out. So we're going to take these cables out. Just bring them out a little bit. So you can cut this with a cutter that I seriously don't have. All right, well, I'll unwind it. I should have a cutter here. I don't know what happened to my cutter. Did I leave it in the other room? All right, whatever. Not a big deal. You can untie it. Let's take that out. Once it's untied, you're going to sort out your cables. I'm going to bring all the cables out on this side so you guys can see them in a second. Let me just bring this around. All right. So cable-wise, you got a 24 pin. That is for your motherboard. That other way. That's going to go straight into your motherboard. I don't know if it's labeled. No, it's not labeled, but it's the only one that's this big. 24 pin. You're going to also have another one for your CPU, which would be helpful. Here we go. Here it is. The one for your CPU, which is going to be an 8-pin connector. There we go. That's your 8-pin connector. And that's going to go on your upper top corner over here, which you cannot see. This top corner over here. That's going to go there. Your 24 pin is going to go over here. So that's going to filter that out. Now, we don't have a graphic card, but if you're doing a graphic card, you'll have also a PCI Express one. Now, this looks like the one for the CPU. It's very close to the same, but it is not. I can guarantee you it is not. Now, it is not labeled on this power supply, but EVGA labels them, Corsair labels them, and it usually says EVGA or VGA on it. Or it says sometimes PCI Express. That's the one that's for the graphic card. If you want to know how the difference is, you'll look at it looking this way, and it usually has a little break in the cable, and it usually has 2 of these going to one connection usually. So again, if you're unsure, read the manual on which one this one is, because this one looks very, very similar. Do not mix these up, because if you plug this into your motherboard, you will damage your motherboard. So you don't want to do that. You want to plug in the proper one, which is the CPU, and shove it all the way up there. And you want the one for the motherboard, and you want to put that through this hole here, because that's where it is. Everything else, everything else, there's a lot of stuff here. These are all for accessories that we're not doing today. But if you did, this is a Molex connector. That's for like some fans, some other stuff like that. There's a lot of options here. There's also a floppy controller for whoever has a floppy still. And it has SATA connections as well. So these are all SATA connections. This is for like SATA hard drives or lights. Sometimes you have lights, you want to use those. But in this case, we're not using them. So we're going to just take all of this, bring it back, including the one for the graphic card. I'm going to ravel these wires up, if you can see on the other camera. I'm going to ravel those up, and I'm going to tie them all together and shove them down into the lower portion, into the little lower portion down here. So I'm going to ravel the wires up, tighten them down. They're going to be nice and tight when I go to put them down on the bottom. I'm just going to compact them down. Don't be afraid to use a few more wire ties here, because you don't want to have your wires jumping around all over the place. That is not good. They are not good to be jumped into. yeah, very confusing when it comes to the wire portion. Again, the manual does state like which one you should be using and where. So if you really have a hard time with that, you can look at the manual, and the manual will show you a little bit more differences in the way they're keyed. If you're forcing the key into the motherboard, then you got the wrong one. It should just line up one direction. The clip on the board should actually only fit one way, so you shouldn't really be able to do that. But I have seen people force that connection in and then cause a real big problem. So do not do that. Again, if you're forcing something, you might want to relook and see what you're doing, because if you're forcing something, then you probably got the wrong, you know, the wrong wire or the wrong connection. So we're going to pull this up close. We're going to take this a little bit. There we go. Right here is the main connection for the motherboard, which is your big 24 pin. You line up this clip with this clip on the board. So when you clip it, it should click in place. So I know there's a lot of clip and click in here, but you want to do is you want to make sure that it's lined up, push it down, and you should hear it click. There's a very small little click noise that it makes. Once you know that that's in there, you should be able to pull back on it a little bit and gently pull back, and it should not slide out of the socket. If it slides out of the socket, then you seated it wrong, reseat it. Now, same thing for here up in the corner. There are little clips here. Those clips line up the clips on the board, and then you push them in, and they make a click noise when you clip them in. There's a lot of C words here, but you guys get the point. It should click into place. Once it's clicked into place, you should be able to pull back on the cable a little bit to make sure it is stuck, and it is. And we're all set for that. Now, what I'm going to do is do some cable management, because this is a little bit messy, and I really don't like mess when it comes to my cases. This is optional, but I do recommend it, because if you see already, this wire is getting stuck on this fan, which is no good. So we're going to tie that wire all the way up there, and maybe even rerun it a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it from the spot here. And by the way, this is why I don't do cable management till last, because I like to move things around a little bit, rearrange, and get the wires in place before I do a lot of cable management. You can do cable management as you go, but if you do it as you go, you may end up having to recut the wires again, because you may make a mistake or something like that. If this is your first time, you can do this definitely one at a time. If it's a new product, I definitely recommend doing that. And then just tying back as you go. Again, this one could probably just be pushed underneath here and just slipped under so it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't come in contact with the fan. Again, don't spin these fans like crazy. Just see if they touch. You don't want to spin this too much, because you could damage your motherboard, so don't do that. Because when you spin a fan, it does cause electricity to happen, and a small amount of electricity could be feeding back into your board the wrong direction, and it could cause a problem. So same thing with cleaning out your computer. You always hold the fans before you blow them out, because you don't want that fan spinning and then causing electricity to happen. So let's move on. Let's pull all the cables back to the other side. I'm going to flip the case around, and I'm going to pull all of this down so at least it goes back. I say down, but it's on the back of the case, so that everything is nice and flush, and we have everything tied down in the back. So I'm going to flip over one more time. Flip this over. And there are some tie down points that you're going to have to look for. There we go. Tie down points are going to be here, 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 here. Tie down here at the bottom, here, here, here. If you see them, they're like little, they stand out a little bit. You want to tie down almost all of the cables down to certain areas, but what you want to do is you want to pull that slack back first before you start tying things down. I'm going to grab our smaller ties for this, because we don't need very large ones. So just grab some ties. I'm going to do a little kink and bend in that. Once you bent that, then it makes it a lot easier to slide underneath the hook without it going through all the way to the other side. So pull that up and then tie it down. Push it through. Should zip down just like any other zip tie. Push it down. Okay. And you want to do that, follow all the way through. I'm going to go really quick here because this is just literally repeat, repeat, repeat. So what you're going to do again, bend, slip through, tie everything down. In this case, this is only really one cable on this side because there's only one cable going across. But sometimes you may have like a graphic card cable or something going a weird direction. You could do that, or you can come up from the bottom too. There's other ways. Most of the time, if you have a front panel case that is visible, like in other words, you have a glass front panel, then you'll want to make sure that the cable ties are done in a really good manner so they don't look crappy and you don't end up seeing a lot of cable. The main point is that you don't see a lot of cable unless you're going for that kind of look, and if you are, then you don't have to really do much, I guess. You can just do very minimal work on it. This is a closed case, so honestly, this is just for me, for cleaning purposes, for my technicians to let them know that something has been touched. That's why we do the cable ties the way we do. We do them a little bit more than most people so that we know that if something has been touched on the inside of the case, has been opened up, or something's been clipped or something like that, that we can actually fix that. Let's pull all these cables forward. There's also this. So what I like to do is since this is the biggest and thickest cable, I'll usually tie that one down first, just so that I know it's tied down. You can also tie the other cables to that cable. So you give it kind of a mounting point for other cables to mount onto. That is okay. Just, just get the main one tied down then in the right direction that you want it, so that at least it's nice and tight and it's in the right position. Do not pull too tight that you're pulling this out of the socket on the other side. Be very careful. It should stop naturally. I know that this is not something, if you're unsure, look at both sides of the case while you do this. You put it upwards and you can see it. And then if you want to do that, you can see both sides and not pull too hard, that you're pulling it out of the socket. You don't want that, but you do want it tight enough so that everything sits nicely. I'm going to tie these down over here just because they're over here. Put that down that way. Don't be afraid to move a cable around. If you have to move a cable, move it into the proper position for you. If you're moving it out of position, it's going to make it only more difficult for you to get it back in position. So just, try to go with the flow of wherever the tie downs are and wherever everything fits into. If you're unsure, start by just doing 1 or 2 cables at a time, and then go from there. This shouldn't take you so long that you're sitting there for 5 hours doing cable management, but it should take you enough time to make sure it looks good on your side. Now again, this is really for us because there is no window. So we're really behind everything and no one's really seeing this except us, but you'll know it's there and it will probably drive you nuts that it's there if you don't do it. So I recommend that you do it, especially if you're going to go to clean or do any more maintenance on the system. It's a lot easier to do maintenance when everything's tied down. I'm not going to clip these because I don't have my clipper with me. They're in the other room and I want to get on to booting it. So let's see if it'll boot. At this point, we should be able to boot the system. So we're going to flip this back over. I'm going to connect up the monitor and we shall see if it boots and doesn't blow up on us. And let me put this back to me because you're not seeing anything. Ooh. Just going to connect the power, monitor. This is onboard graphics, so it's going right into the motherboard. Power is going directly into the power supply. Nothing really special here. Keyboard and mouse, which I did not connect. I'm just going to connect the keyboard for now because the mouse I don't need. If I can separate it. I'll put this away. I put this away. Okay, there we go. Mouse, don't need the mouse, just the keyboard. So I'm going to put the keyboard on. And yeah, that's fine. Just plug it into any USB port. It's ready to go. And at this point, I think I have it on camera 4, I think. Let me flip that on first. Let's go to 4. Let's turn me on. There we go. Oh, I should probably be in the bottom corner again. Okay, so the minute it boots up, you'll see it says CPU has changed. Please enter setup to configure your system. Press F1 to do setup. You're good to go. At this point, that is booted. So we're going to go into this. Ooh, we're going to go into the setup. Of course, it it rebooted before I could push the button. All right, so just push the delete key. The delete key will get you in the BIOS. At this point, I'm going to put it over to program so I can see a little bit more. I'm going to also move this a little bit over because I have my monitor way too low. Sorry guys, just bear with me. We'll update the BIOS right now since that's what we're going to do. So basically, I have a flash drive here with the BIOS on it. We're going to upgrade to the newest BIOS because that's usually way behind. Before I do this though, what I like to check is to make sure that the CPU is being registered, which it is, that the temperature is okay. So right now, the temperature is at the top. So it says CPU core temperature is at 35 degrees Celsius. That is acceptable. That means it is cooling correctly. That means you won't have a problem loading the BIOS. So when we go to load the BIOS, we want to make sure that the temperature is good on the CPU before we do anything. Also, before you update your BIOS, make sure that you are on a UPS battery, because if you lose power during this BIOS upgrade, it won't be a good idea. There won't be a really good day for you, let's put it that way. You will have a really bad day. The whole entire board will not work and you will have a really bad experience. So be sure that you are on a UPS battery and you're ready to go. Okay, so let's move on. I'm gonna go to the advanced view just because it's a little easier for me. I'm gonna push down to where it says M Flash in the bottom corner. Sorry, I'm looking this way, but the monitor's on this side. When you have that USB, you have to plug in the USB flash drive, of course, with the BIOS on it already. Hit that. The system will automatically boot and enter flash mode. That is correct. Yes. It's going to reboot. It's going to enter flash mode. Flash mode is going to then show you a list of whatever's on the drive. In this case, it is this file right here, which is the E7D22IMS.280. Long story short, the newest version of the BIOS. How I got that from MSI's website. I just grabbed it, downloaded it, put it on the flash drive. Hit enter on that. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to select this file? You say yes. It's going to go through its little BIOS upgrade. At this point, you follow directions. It says, do not use your keyboard, do not use your mouse, do not power off, do not unplug the USB flash drive. These are things that you must be careful about. If you do any of these, you will brick your motherboard. And by brick, I mean break it. So you will not be able to get back into your motherboard if this shuts off during this time. Do not do that. Let it go all the way through. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, then don't do it. Leave the current version if it booted, you know, and then let somebody else do it for you that knows what they're doing. Or you could do it through Windows as well. But if you do it through Windows, you still need a UPS battery because it will bring you back to this screen to flash it. So guys, just be very careful is what I'm kind of getting at here with this whole flashing utility. It's not like loading Windows where if you screw up loading Windows, you can just reload Windows. This is not something you can reload. It is a writing to an actual physical chip on the board. If that board gets destroyed, this board is an inexpensive board, but the more expensive the board is, sometimes they have flashback utilities. And in that case, when it flashes back, you'll have that option to flash the board again if the board has been flashed wrong. But this board doesn't have that. So just be careful what you're doing. And by when I say expensive motherboards, it's a feature. It's not a necessity. We only flash maybe once every few years, unless there's a lot of changes to the system. Okay, it's going to do its little flashy thing. It's going to reboot again. This is an Intel system, that's why it booted up so quickly. The AMD systems take a little longer to do its little boot sequence. So with Intel, during the flashing process, you will see it take a little longer and it will go through its little steps. Now, unfortunately, I already have Windows 10 loaded on that USB flash drive. It's about to load. I'm not going to go loading this right now because that will take literally over an hour, and I don't think you guys really want to see a progress bar for an hour. So I'm going to escape out of this for now, but you should go back to the BIOS when this boots back up, and you should set your memory profile. In this case, we have 3200 megahertz memory. So what we want to do is when you want to hit F7, go to settings. You should also set the date and time, but I'm not going to do that right now. Go to advanced. You want to set up, do not set these settings until you flashed your machine because it will erase them. What you want to do is you want to go to, where is it? Did I miss it? Maybe it's under overclocking. Yeah, it's probably under overclocking. Yep, it's under overclocking. So right down here you see it says extreme memory profile. That's your XMP profile. You want to turn that on to enabled, and it should pick up the correct RAM. Right below it, it does say DDR4 3200 megahertz, which is what we have in the system with the proper settings and the proper voltage. At this point, you're done with the BIOS. You just basically need to set up like your boot profile and stuff like that and whatever, but it's already set up for booting off a USB flash drive. So we're ready to go. I don't want to go too far into loading Windows because again, that's going to be a whole nother video for loading Windows. Right now, this is as far as we go with the system. Plus, I like to configure a lot of things custom for my client, so I don't want to show those things on camera. But what you would be doing is you'd be loading Windows 10 at this point. I would run a memory test just in case to make sure everything is good to go. And then once everything is ready and good to go, then load up Windows. You know, I would load Windows without the Ethernet card adapter connected or anything like that. And, you know, just basic load of Windows, nothing crazy. Once you've loaded Windows, then you can activate it, go through the key activation, go through all that. Again, we're going to have another video for that later on. But this concludes building a system. Guys, we have live streams every Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I recommend that you come and join us. We do have different topics every week. It's not just system builds. System builds are done whenever we have a customer that needs a build done. So we encourage you to come and visit those. We also will have videos. We will have videos going up probably next week. I have been just a little bit behind on trying to get the video editing software working with me. So, but once everything's good to go on that, we will be releasing videos on a more constant basis. But we will be continuing the live stream every Saturday at 3:30. Topics are usually released on Wednesday. Anyways, yeah, like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. If you want to dislike this video, be sure to hit it twice because you're special. And we'll see you when, maybe hopefully Saturday. See you then.